Hey, this is Peter, and welcome to another Take a Break with Valley CAD. So, have you ever heard of the definition of SOLIDWORKS? Like a lot of people say, oh yeah, it's just a 3D modeling software, or it's a 3D modeling CAD software. Yeah, it is those things, but have you ever heard of the definition of SOLIDWORKS? Well, the definition of SOLIDWORKS is that it's a parametric 3D modeling software that is feature-based and fully associative. Now, looking at that definition, yeah, it might be a little intimidating to like see there, but the aspect that we're going to be looking at here is this aspect of being fully associative. Now, being fully associative, this is really powerful, and this is actually what makes software such as SOLIDWORKS extremely fast for coming in and doing maybe copying a design and reusing it, or if you need to make a design change and if you update the part file, well, that part file is being referenced in an assembly or in a drawing file, and so if you make an update to the part, hey, guess what? Wherever that part is being referenced, it'll update that assembly and that given drawing. And vice versa, if that part's in that assembly file, you update that assembly, guess what? Wherever that part file is, it's gonna get updated as well. So that fully associative part is really an awesome functionality within SOLIDWORKS, but it can really bite you in the bum if you're not careful about it. So in this video, we're gonna be talking about working through how we can move files around our file explorer. And once again, this is also not utilizing PDM approach, by the way. This is outside of a PDM environment. So go get your favorite cup of coffee or tea, and I'll show you some examples of how we can move files around to reassociate them and some what if scenarios. So I'll see you in SOLIDWORKS in just a click. Hey there, welcome to SOLIDWORKS. So got a really simple assembly here. It's made up of two part files that are just duplicated over and over again. Just made something really quick and simple for the sake of this video. So the aspect of SOLIDWORKS being fully associative, right? As I was mentioning a little bit ago, this is crucial, and people that don't understand that part of the definition of SOLIDWORKS or respect it maybe, they might find out ways that, hey, yeah, this is how I move other files in my file explorer, so why won't it work in SOLIDWORKS? So this is where this video is going to come in and be able to understand how SOLIDWORKS actually does relate components inside of assemblies or inside of a drawing file and other part files. It's actually really powerful, but man, can it bite you in the bum if you don't respect it. So coming in here, let's say I bring up my file explorer. So I made a folder on here that's called Dangerous Approach. And so I'm gonna come in and show you some scenarios that I've seen some people like SOLIDWORKS operators that have just simply moved files around. And then we're gonna move into the routes that are intended inside of SOLIDWORKS. So for instance, let's say, you know what, I have this part number 2 here. It's made up of a simple cylinder, and it has a simple drawing associated with it. So let's say that I worked on a given project and I need this file set to be used in another project, but I want them to be, associated somewhere else, right? Well, let's say I did that here. So I'm gonna take the part file and holding down Control, also click on that given drawing file. And then from there, I'm gonna simply right click and I'll say, let's copy this. And I'll simply come in my Dangerous Approach folder, paste it here. Now you'll see here that SOLIDWORKS goes, hey, yeah, so here's your file reference, part two, and oh shoot. Hey, rule number 1 here, everybody, do not have duplicate names in SOLIDWORKS, okay? If you're gonna be working in a SOLIDWORKS environment, have to, and I can't stress this enough, have to come up with unique names. And so as I come in here and I look back at my file references folder here, I still have a set of files named part 2. And even though they're in a separate folder, it can actually really bite you in the butt. So please come in, make sure you have unique file names. So I'm gonna come in, I'm gonna rename these as part 3, right? Hey, that's a unique name. I haven't used that one yet. To let you know as well, this naming structure that I'm using here, it works for the given environment that I'm working through. If you are still learning how to utilize file naming structures or anything like that, give us a call. We are happy to talk that out with you, kind of see what sort of workflows you have or how you might be categorizing your files. Give us a call. As you see here, we got our phone number right over there, and that phone number is going to be 559-726-2276. All right, or you can simply go on the Valley CAD website and contact us that way as well. So coming in, I'm going to simply open up this drawing file. That's called part 3 now. Simply opening that up, SOLIDWORKS is going, hey, all right, things are looking good. All right, so coming in here, all right, nice. So I'm gonna simply click save on that. You know what, I'm gonna come back to my file explorer and also open reference part number 3 part file, because I wanna update the part file as well, right? Because let's say I move this from one project to another project and I need to update, maybe it's a different size. So I'll simply say, let's go 3 inches on this instead. And we'll do a rebuild on that. We'll save it too. All right, so this is now 3 inches tall. Sweet. So I'm gonna come back to my drawing file. So just simply pushing Control Tab will switch me back to my drawing file that's referencing the given part file. Oh, something's wrong here. Can you guys guess what it is? Well, if I look at my drawing, see here it still says 2 inches for the length on this. Shoot. So everybody, let's come back into my part file. Maybe that Control Tab does something weird. I don't know, looking at part 3, that looks like 3 inches to me. It's not 2 inches. So even though I copied both of those files at once, moved them together, SOLIDWORKS was kind of showing deceptively going, yeah, hey, they're still referencing everything's looking good. In reality, it's not. Unfortunately, it's not working. Now, how can you verify how a drawing file is looking to a given component? It could either be a part file or an assembly, okay? Well, here's one way we could go about it. We come up to our file, and from file, you could come down and click on Find References. From there, SOLIDWORKS will bring up this window and it'll show you that your parent file, which is this drawing, and it'll show all the components that it is referencing. So if I have a drawing that has more than one component inside of it, it'll list that out for me. All right. I do recommend here that you have one drawing file per one part file or assembly file. Don't have this one part file here in like 5 different drawing files. Things can get dangerous pretty quick with that too, by the way. All right, but anyways, so we come in here, you'll see that it says, oh, drawing file part 3 is actually referencing drawing file part, or the reference part file part 2. So that's why we didn't see that 3-inch increment increase there. Ugh, stink. Well, from here, you are not able to do anything to fix this in this scenario. It is just, hey, SOLIDWORKS showing you this is what's referencing. Sorry, you moved it the wrong way. You are living on a dangerous approach there. So we're gonna simply say close to that. But I do wanna update this. I do want it to reference part 3 part file. So what we can do inside of a drawing file is to come up to Tools, and then from Tools, you'll come down and you'll see Replace Model. Clicking on this, SOLIDWORKS is gonna say, all right, so we need you to select a parent drawing view, which is this one here, so it's already selected for me, thankfully. And I get to specify, hey, do I wanna update the reference in all views or just the parent? Well, I'm gonna say all views on this one. And it's gonna ask me to specify the new model that's gonna be referenced. So I'll simply click Browse. This will bring me into my new File Explorer here. And what I can do is navigate to my given location. So I'm not gonna be under Documents. I wanna be under my file referencing here. So this is just using a quick reference, so forth. I'm gonna come into Dangerous Approach, and I wanna utilize my file reference part 3 and simply say open to that. You'll see I got a green box now. That typically means, hey, you're good to go. Green check mark, bam. SOLIDWORKS made it so that this thing is referenced. Now, I'm not gonna click save at this time, okay? The reason why is because I'm gonna show you another way that we can set up a reference approach if you were the one that did this naughty trick of moving things around. So I'm gonna simply close, and I don't wanna save it, all right? So coming back in here, instead of utilizing the File Explorer and simply clicking on here to say open to that, I'm going to utilize the open command inside of SOLIDWORKS. So simply come up here to open. From open, I'm going to navigate to my file references folder that I have. You can go under Dangerous Approach, and I'm gonna simply click on that drawing view just so I could see it there. From here, you'll notice that I have a references icon. Now, if I click on the part file, you see a references icon there as well. And it's actually saying, hey, you already have it open, so what are you doing here, right? But I'm gonna come back into my drawing selection there. I'm gonna simply click on references. From here, because I clicked cancel or I closed out the drawing before saving it, SOLIDWORKS still kept the reference to part number 2. What I can do here is actually edit this. So I could double click on part 2. This will bring up another open window on top of my open window. And it's telling me, hey, you can reassociate this drawing to look to a different file. So from here, since SOLIDWORKS kept a memory of where I was last time under dangerous approach, I want this reference part number 3. I'll say open to that. This will turn green. Green typically means, hey, you're good to go. So from here, simply click OK to that. And then from there, I'll say open. Now by doing this, SOLIDWORKS is going to come in and guess what? It shows it at that 3-inch increment for me. Done. Pretty cool, huh? So even though you're doing something kind of dangerous, like I do not recommend just moving things around. Oh, super dangerous. You can actually fix it if needed. So I'm going to show you another approach here that I unfortunately have seen some SOLIDWORKS operators do. So I'm going to close out of this and make sure that I don't have any files open on my SOLIDWORKS session here. And what we're going to do is come in and do this function of just moving files around in your file explorer. So coming up here, let's say that I had that part file, right? So I have seen operators do this where they'll just simply drag a file from one folder and drag it to another location. Now that part file that I just moved, that is being referenced in a drawing file and an assembly. You know, you're gonna get a double whammy here. And by moving like files around like this, it's actually a little bit harder to work with too, to try to fix it. So for instance, I'll come in here and I'll open up reference part file 1 there, and this is what I get. So whenever you get this, you might want to use that browse for file, or you can say suppress all missing components, but you got a time ticker to say when to do that. So I waited too long, shoot. Now this is what I get. I get a drawing that has these empty boxes basically that are known as viewports on my sheet. So I gotta come in here and tell SOLIDWORKS to reassociate this drawing to that part file that I decided to move, right? Well, to let you know, coming up to tools and replace model does not work. The reason why it's not gonna work is because it's the same file name that we're gonna try to put in here. So we're technically not replacing anything. So I'm gonna simply close out of this, and by closing out, I'm gonna not save it. To fix this sort of issue, what we need to do is actually the open command inside of SOLIDWORKS. So notice that I moved my part 1 here to my dangerous approach. So I'm gonna come back to my file reference folder, and from here, I'm gonna navigate to that part file 1 there. Now, what we did last time, we used that reference button. We have to do that again here, but we're gonna do something a little different. So last time what we did is we came in, we double clicked on the name. Well, once again, we're not changing the name at all on here. It's the same file name. So if I say open to that, notice how it stays black there. But look what it did do for me. It came in and it updated the folder location. So the other thing you could do here is you could actually double click in this folder cell and you can have it reassociate to the given folder location and say select folder. Now that turned green, we can say cool to that, and I'll simply say open. By opening this now, SOLIDWORKS is going to come in and say, hey, drawing file, I reassociated you back to this new folder location that this part file is in. I found it for you, be happy. All right, so that is, you can actually come in and fix it, but once again, super dangerous to do this. And so sometimes you do need to move files. So let's see how there's another way that we can move files that utilizes a SOLIDWORKS approach on this. Well, notice I can come back into my dangerous approach and I'm using a file explorer. I'm not utilizing SOLIDWORKS for this. What I can actually do is right click on a SOLIDWORKS file type. So this is a part file. This also works on a drawing file, okay? Or another part file, or even an assembly file. Those are native SOLIDWORKS file types. So if I right click on, let's say part 1, and after right clicking on it, I'll simply come down to where it says SOLIDWORKS here. And this is that unique function that for any SOLIDWORKS file, you get this. And what I could do from here is I could say open, this thing called pack and go, and I'll come back to that here in a minute. But there's this also one here called move. So if I click on move, SOLIDWORKS will come in and say, hey, all right, we can move this document for you. And by the way, we're gonna update where it's used. We could also include virtual components if we want to, but I'm gonna simply say browse. I'm just gonna have this go up one folder. So it's gonna go back to the original location. And I simply said okay to that. You'll see it's not under my dangerous approach anymore. And it's back under my file references folder. Now, if I come in here, let's say I open up part number 1 here, notice that SOLIDWORKS is happy with this, right? Well, what I'm gonna do next is simply say file. I'll simply say, hey, let's make a drawing from part. SOLIDWORKS is gonna say, hey, there's already a drawing file for this thing. What are you doing, right? I'm gonna simply say, yeah, let's open that thing. And SOLIDWORKS will come in here and say, hey, I got a drawing for you, and here it is, still keeping your reference. So if you do have to move a file around, simply right click on it and use that move function or copy function and so forth. Okay, so that is another gotcha on that. So I'm gonna come in here, let's open up the assembly file. Now with the assembly file, I'm gonna show you one of the coolest things that you can use. And once again, this is all outside of a PDM environment. Okay, so if you have PDM standard or professional, you actually have other approaches of working with moving files around and so forth that are pretty powerful actually. This is designed for people that are not using PDM, as I said earlier in this video. So coming in here, if you need to make a copy of a given assembly or components, what I would recommend to do is come up to File. Under File, you'll simply come down to what's this thing called Pack and Go. Pack and Go is the bee's knees. I will tell you that several times. As we come in here, what Pack and Go does is a massive save as copy of a given assembly or drawing file or part file, whatever you want it to be. But since I came into a top level assembly, this one right here, what's gonna do is it's gonna grab all the components that are inside of that assembly. And I also came in and I said, include the drawings. So every drawing file that's used as well is also included with this. Now, what's really cool about this is I can actually come in and I can rename all these components if I want. And I can simply double click on it. And I can say, oh, you know what, that show function, let's get rid of that. I'll say, okay. And you'll notice it turns green each time that I do this. Okay, so I'll say that show, get rid of it, say okay again. All right, so that's one way you could go about this. But another thing you could do is you can actually add a prefix or suffix. So I'll simply come in here and we'll say, let's call this rev1. And from there, simply click, and you'll see that SOLIDWORKS will come in here and it'll add a rev1 at the end of every single file. Now, if you did come in with a naming convention that has some repeatable items inside of it, you can also come in here and utilize this thing called select and replace. So for instance, I came in and I added rev1 after everything. Well, what I could actually do is say, hey, you know what? Instead of rev1, I meant this to be rev2. So I could say, let's replace rev1, and we'll simply say, I want that to be rev2. Oh, caps lock, man, it gets me every time. I'll simply say replace all. So SOLIDWORKS will find everything in this column only where it said rev1 and replace it with rev2. Now I'm gonna simply say browse here. I'll say, let's make a new folder. And we'll simply call this file reference rev2 for the sake of this video. We'll simply say that one there, say select folder, and I'll simply say save to that. So as I mentioned, SOLIDWORKS comes in and does a massive save as copy from there. With that, come in, you'll see I have a new folder that says file reference on it. And you'll see that all the files that were used in that assembly are now in here, and they all say rev2 on it. This allows you to come in, it keeps associativity and so forth, allows you to come in and update files for this given file set. It will not mess up or anything or change anything on your original file set. All right, so to recap here, that Pack and Go is your lifesaver. Use it. The other thing that is really powerful for you is simply right clicking on a component and you come in under SOLIDWORKS and you can move it. okay? Or you can also do pack and go here if you need to. If I right click on a drawing file, you'll see that I could also move it as well. But if I click on pack and go, SOLIDWORKS will recognize that this is a drawing file, and that drawing file is referencing a part file. So it'll include that as well. So I tend to use pack and go quite often. So I know that this video is getting long, so we're gonna call it quits here for you. If you got more questions about it, give us a call here. Once again, our phone number is 559-726-2276. It's a great way to reach out to us. You can call me directly. You could also talk to our tech support team here at Valley CAD. Awesome. Well, if you are enjoying these videos, please click that thumbs up button. Also click subscribe so you can get notified on future Take a Break videos and other videos that we are posting here at Valley CAD. Have a great rest of the day and make sure you learn something new.